From WCIA 3 Plus with your hosts Glenn Kinley, Courtney Lane Brewer, and Tristan Thomas. This is the SEFCU Your Illini Nation WCIA 3-in-1 podcast.
All right, welcome into the Your Illini Nation WCIA 3-in-1 podcast here on the WCIA Plus app. I'm Courtney Lane Brewer coming to you solo for the very first time. We're coming off a big weekend of Illini football. I'm by myself because our Glenn Kenley is still on his way back from Raleigh-Durham, where the now number 9 Illini got a pretty big win over the Duke Blue Devils. 45-19, the final. Illinois' first road test of this season. And they come away with a stat that I found to be pretty impressive. First non-con power conference road win since 2007. I mean, that's probably before Camden Lopati was born. Really exciting for this team and putting them on national watch as we saw play out with Illinois jumping up from number 11 to number 9 in the AP poll. I mean, if that isn't a vote of confidence from the AP poll voters, then I don't know what is. Really exciting game. I'll just rattle through some of the highlights. What we're going to do today is once again bring you Brett Bielema's Monday weekly press conference where he recaps the game, looks forward to the game ahead. He does this every Monday. It's a really good baseline from a media standpoint and from a fan standpoint, in my opinion, to just figure out where we are heading into the week. So again, 45-19, the final. Illinois 2-0. Illinois outscored Duke 31-6 in the second half. Now, this was highlighted by a couple of guys finding the end zone. Hank Beatty looked incredible just once again. Hank Beatty is leading the nation in all-purpose yards with nearly 400 all-purpose yards through 2 games. If he can continue to keep that up through these next, not even necessarily these next 10 games, if he can continue to be at the top of these charts for I sound like somebody who loves pop culture, and it's because I do. If he can stay at to the top of these stat lines for the next couple of weeks, there's your vote of confidence. They're showing that you can come to Illinois and put up these big numbers. That's huge from a recruiting standpoint. That's huge from a national level standpoint. Also a guy I've been hot on all of camp and all through these first 2 games, Justin Bowick, 4 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown, as well as Colin Dixon. We were pretty excited about Colin Dixon coming into this season throughout camp. And so now to see him living up to that, especially on the road. And, I want to come on here, and he's a sophomore. Really exciting for this kid. And, I want to come on here and say, oh, Illinois goes into a hostile road environment and shows out. But as you've seen, if you watched the game, if you watched any of our coverage, hostile road environment wouldn't exactly be the word for it. I was speaking to our friend Robert Rosenthal. He estimated about 8,000 Illini fans. And if the stadium is full, which it was not, that's putting you at a pretty good place. Yeah, Wallace Wade Stadium holds 40. So if Robert's right, that gives Illinois 20% of the stadium. Except Duke wasn't full the rest of the way and slowly trickled out throughout the duration of this game. So, I mean, if you're the Illini team and Illini fans, I don't really know how much happier you can be about this win, because it shows that you're ready to go on the road in the Big Ten. If you can go down to Duke where it's hot, where you're playing on different grass, where you've really, besides Washington, the biggest traveling they'll do all year, where you've really got to go and reintegrate yourself to get ready for road travel, especially if you're young, especially if you're a transfer. If you can do that, that really bodes well for the future. I really enjoyed watching this game. Really special to see how these Illini fans have traveled, especially, as I've said, as an outsider who is still learning about Illini fandom. I think it was really exciting for this program, and Brett Bielema was hype about it too. So let's go ahead and get into it, because that's how he started, by saying thank you to these fans. He did, Aaron Henry did, everyone was fired up. Let's hear what Brett Bielema had to say.
What's up, everybody? Obviously, after we put the film to bed, super excited about not just, obviously the results of the game, but just the things we had to go through to get there, right? Like I talked a little bit about it after the game, about it's not what happens, it's how you react to what happens. And I thought just the awareness of our staff to make some adjustments, the comprehension of our players to make those adjustments, and the communication to make it all unfold in front of us is really awesome. I want to say thank you to all the fans that showed up. I know that the crowd was pretty spirited on behalf of the Fighting Illini, and to do that in a road game is pretty awesome. So thank you to everybody that showed up there and made that possible. Super excited to get here this weekend. Western Michigan team obviously came close to getting a W on Saturday, and really both games. In the first game against Michigan State, I think it was 21-0 at the half. They didn't give up any points in the second half, gave up a safety, right? So I just think this crew is going to present a good challenge for us to come in here, and I know we're going to get their best shot. Hopefully we're going to take another step forward. Game 3, opportunity number 3. From an injury standpoint, I know Dylan Rosiak and Aiden Lawford didn't finish the game, but they weren't just eliminated. It was a decision that we made at that time for where they're at. So very good chance we could have them on Saturday. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but they're not out of the game yet at all. So we'll see where those two guys end up. And Jaheim Clark, outside chance for Saturday. Don't know if he'll be back with us yet, but do expect him the following week to be with us. So got some guys to go through some things. We did play a long game, 4-quarter game. It was very hot there, so I think we got to be really smart on our front end here. Really put a lot of stress on our support staff with hydration, recovery, soft tissue, everything yesterday, everything today to hit the practice field tomorrow. So we'll be there, and obviously a night game here in Memorial Stadium. Hopefully that crowd will be amped up, excited. Got the day to prepare themselves as well, and see where that one goes. So with that, open up for questions.
Brett, when you were recruiting Hank Beatty out of Rochester, what sold you on him when you met with Derek? And
so it's kind of full circle for me. I met Derek when Derek was a small person, right? Young person, I should say, and so that was kind of exciting for me because I'd known his dad, right? To know Ken, and then to have a player pop up so quickly at Rochester, and to have the accolades. And then once I saw the film, I didn't know where he was going to be, honestly. It was during the Zoom era, so I hadn't really seen him physically in person. Just was super excited the way Derek talked about him, just as, he'd played him at wide receiver, but he also had played him at quarterback. I automatically thought, is this a defensive guy? And to be honest, really coming into fall camp that year, I didn't know exactly where it was going to play out. I did think about defense, but after I saw him catch the ball, he just catches the ball so naturally. And even like that, his run on Saturday, that was kind of up his bag of tricks, because once he's coming at you and you got a couple choices to make, east or west, and to go vertical, I kind of felt good about that, right? He just kind of gave a little bit got high with the shoulders, sunk, and then made a move. So he's just really gifted with the ball in his hands, and super excited to see it play out.
This now for him.
I think the more I'm around great players, the great players let the game come to them, and I witnessed this. I heard my coach say it the other day, and it's exactly what Hank Beatty is. He doesn't ever really try to press. Doesn't really try to create something that's not there. He lets the game come to him naturally, and because of that, I think that's kind of his punt return instincts, right? Like I would think when he made his big jump, he had some success in the punt return game, and now that's transcended into everything he's doing. And then just to see the reaction of his teammates, he's just so well liked. He's not a real vocal guy. He speaks actions through what he does, or speaks volume through what he does, and that's been the fun part to watch.
Coach, you're in the top 10 for the first time in a quarter century. I know you don't like these questions, but ask it anyway.
Sure.
Just, what's it mean? Was there any kind of celebration, any kind of acknowledgement yesterday when you found it?
No, I think Brett shot me a text when it came through, like he does every time the polls come out, but it's just kind of part of the process. I always take Sunday to look at college football, so I definitely made our guys aware of it. Obviously, I knew they were aware of it before they came in that meeting, and kind of just real quick, just talk about where we are. But the fact of the matter is, right, like every week is an opportunity to improve, and I really try to focus them in on that. And I thought it kind of came full circle. I had a feeling that you might ask this question today, right? So I thought it was funny. So Josh and I talk pretty much every day, right? And Josh is in Chicago with the athletic directors. So last night we'd been kind of playing phone tag. We sat by each other on a plane, and we're able to kind of have some conversations there. But then he said, "Hey, I'm going to be in Chicago tomorrow night. Let's touch base." And so everything was kind of happening real fast yesterday, just during the course of the day, Sunday, as it always is. And so I don't think we actually ended up connected till it was almost 9 o'clock or so. And we talked about a couple things that were on our radar that we just naturally talk about, a lot of different things. He goes, "There's something else." And he said it twice, and I brought up some other things. And then he said, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "Hey, you're ranked in the top 10. Congrats." And I kind of laughed, and he laughed, because it really wasn't a part of our conversation. I think that kind of just obviously very excited, and it's a lot of great things out there for people to talk about. I know I mean, even just that crowd on Saturday, right? Like to hear that many people, and I know that's not by chance. I know that people are excited about Illinois football, and I think that's a good thing. And just by the judge of requests that Brett's come to me with, from a media standpoint, to people that want to talk to us. I think Luke's going on the Rome show, right? Like just fun for those guys to have those fun things as well. But I really do think these guys are all about the game in front of them.
What kind of history do you have as a coach against Western Michigan? It seems like their playing style is a little different than you think of when you think of Western Michigan.
Yeah, I have really a lot of respect for Coach Taylor. He, I love his story just because former walk-on at Alabama. I was a former walk-on, right? And to earn the position that he is, and then to see his coaching position or see his coaching resume, and knew some people that knew him and in the profession, and have had a chance now to be around him a couple different times. Just super impressed with who he is, what he is. That first year putting in his program, his style, and go last year to a bowl game and see the growth of the program, and it's very apparent on film once you pop it on. I started watching them last February when we were diving into our new opponents that we hadn't seen. So super respectful, play really good complementary football. I think what they do offensively, defensively, special teams, you see it all kind of makes sense the way they play. So a tremendous challenge on Saturday.
Saturday about being multiple on offense in terms of just personnel and using players. Just what do you feel like you've done maybe through development or through other roster building to be in a place where you can have that option?
Yeah, the key for us is just getting that tight end room up. We tried to build that ever since I got here, and honestly was really excited about, Tip left a year earlier than I thought he was going to leave, right? So we kind of got shortchanged right when I thought we were going to build that one up. But the development of that room has been very impressive. I thought Cole Rusk, to see him get that opportunity to get that shot and to have him and Luke connect and see other people see that was a really good thing. I think the play where Luke kind of got around the edge and to see Stoffel out in front of him taking on a DB, it just kind of shows it. I think everybody just thinks he's a big dude that plays inline tight end, but he runs extremely well. Very talented. Coach's son, right? He got all the ingredients to make it. Christian Abney, again, was with Coach New at Ball State. We were really excited to get him in the program. Jordan Anderson's continued development. With the depth at wide receiver, really the depth at running back. It's allowed you to do a lot of different things. Speaking of Western Michigan, they're a pretty balanced 11 and 12, right? They're literally almost 50-50 between those two personnel groupings. So defensively, you have to focus on multiple personnel groupings. Same thing that people are going to have to do against us.
Spent some time in spring and fall camp talking about right guard. Are you stable there? Do you feel like you guys are steady?
Yeah, I thought Brandon Henderson definitely took a step from last week to this week. And I tell you, Behan, like I grabbed him during fall camp one day, and I'm like, man, I've had a lot of guards get really good college accolades and also have a chance to play in the NFL. And I'd said to Brendan, I said, like, hey, man, like you literally have as good a talent as any player I've had at that position. It's just you got to decide when you want to use it and maximize it. And I thought last week was a little bit of a good step in the right direction. It was a hot game, and he's a big boy, right? Like I think he really just needed to have that transition from adolescence to adulthood, and hopefully that kind of happened. I think he does like playing next to him and Melvin, obviously two East St. Louis guys. I was on the phone today with Coach Sunk earlier and talking about his three East St. Louis guys, and I know there's a pride to that with those two. So, I thought he's made a step in the right direction. I thought Des Schuster came in and did some really nice things for us. Continue to be very impressed with him and his athleticism, his size, his range. And, he's had a lot of reps during fall camp once he's got acclimated because, obviously JC was out and then Melvin was out for a little bit, so he got a lot of good quality reps. But and I tell you, Brandon Hanson, again, there's little steps with him, right? He's probably one of our most powerful big guys. And again, he's just got to kind of put it all together. But those two guys have been really good. And then we've actually been repping T.J. McMillan at a guard as well. He popped in there. Josh Kreutz got hurt. Not got hurt. His helmet popped off, so we had to pop in there. And then we put him in some of those bigger packages as well.
I know Jamo's going to play a lot of D linemen, but when you were brought or saw Eli Coonan on tape, kid from D2, did you think he would have this kind of big an impact through 2 weeks?
Eli was really impressive. So the true story there, his high school coach, I coached his son at Wisconsin. And then when Eli got in the portal, I got a call random from Coach Kiefer, and his son, Dan Kiefer, is the head coach, and Jake was the guy that played for me, and he reached out and he said, hey, Brad, I got a kid getting in the portal. You know, I know his film's on Huddle. So I had a moment, so I kind of quick just got a phone and popped it on, and I'm like, oh, yeah. And then by the time I called him, A&M had already sent him on a visit. So we did what we needed to do to get him on campus. And I think even J-Mo liked his film, but then when you see him and he walks in the door, and then I would say even on the practice field the first day, he's got some twitchiness. He's athletic. He bends really well. He's really long. Yeah, I'm super excited. He's a guy that's got 3 years. I'd say the guy that really, you know, for me, took a step on Saturday, and we've been seeing it develop. James Thompson literally played every position on the defensive line. His high football IQ, awareness, intellect, his motor, you know, I know Aaron talked about him last week, just a really impressive kid. And Tommy, I mean, I know he had to reach in the face mask there early, but, like, he's a really explosive player, dynamic. It was funny, I was talking to James. So James was committed to us, and then, you know, when we had Tommy commit to us, I had to talk James off a cliff because he was thinking we were bringing in too many D linemen, and I was sitting in the conversation last night going, aren't you glad Tommy's here now? Because, like, you know, anytime you have one good end, it's good, but when you have two, it's even better, right? Because they can't do things protection-wise, so it's fun to see those guys grow.
Coach, when you have guys come in and get kind of limited snaps, but they make the most of it, a guy like Tanner Hackle or Conan, I know you do, but do you take a close look at that and, like, hey, maybe this guy or that guy needs a few more snaps?
Yeah, so, you know, we were there on the headset, and we were getting a little bit thin at corner, and they were going to put Tanner in a corner, and I just said to Aaron and to Corey, I said, hey, why don't we I like the idea of that, but I like the idea, let's put Tanner inside and put Xavier out, and they're both like, yeah, let's do that, let's roll. And, you know, 20 plays later, he had a punch out, an interception, and you know, his best play of the day was literally on the first muff punt. You know, he was down there, T-Strain kind of made it happen, but the way the ball came out, the ball was bouncing right into one of their players, and he reached in and slapped it out of that guy's hands, and it went right to T-Strain. So for the point of the game where that one was at, it was a really big play. Otherwise, we wouldn't have got that recovery. So he's just super awareness. Eli subbing in there, even just a little thing, but we ran some heavy O-line packages to get those guys in there last week. You know, even though there was only, you know, half a dozen snaps, they were in critical moments. Those things are invaluable for when they pop up. And then, you know, guys, it's just I had a feeling last week Khalil Valentine was going to have a breakout kind of moment. We've all seen it, kind of felt it, but I just felt during the course of the week the way they were kind of wired and the way he's kind of wired, I could see, you know, one of those big plays happening. It's exactly the way it unfolded.
What have you learned about your run game?
Was I worried about?
What have you learned about your run game the first
Yeah,
2 weeks?
well, I think it all starts with what we're doing up front, right? And obviously they were doing some really vertical things in the defensive line game that really stopped us from getting on the edges, at least on some of the outside zone tracks. I thought Bart and the offense staff made a really nice adjustment going to the inside zone. I think Caden is kind of what we thought, right? He's a downhill vertical guy that is a very powerful guy, and then Aiden would come in and have a nice changeup, and then Khalil's just kind of a different level than all three of those guys. And I've said, you know, I coach linebackers my entire inside backers, and it's really hard to have a linebacker not get ahead of plays, especially when you're running inside-outside zones. And I think that's a commonality that we'll just continue to find during the course of the year. That's something hard for defensive guys to set up and understand. So I like where it's at. And then, you know, I think the part that really, you know, I thought we were just a little bit off on the accuracy in the first half, and Luke addressed that, and obviously made a great transition in the second half. But I think once you do that in combination with the RPO game, the more our runs look like passes or our passes look like runs, that's when you got something going.
One more after this.
During camp, you talked about how your night practices in the stadium as prep for Western and on the grass as prep for Duke. Can you do that? I mean, you have 2 night games coming up. Can you do that, or is class schedules mess with that now? Or
No, I think at this point we're pretty much locked into AM class because of class. We do sometimes sneak in some Sunday night practices, and have in the past done a Monday night practice, but that's kind of just to feel where we are and what we're doing. So those guys got a lot of reps under the lights, and I think once that exposure's been there, I think the execution of practice outweighs what time and where it's at. But yeah, it's definitely something we make our guys aware of.
Depending on Dylan's availability Saturday, is Malachi a guy who has versatility for both inside linebacker spots? And if so, what do you like about him?
Yeah, Malachi played his highest volume. You know, I think he took over 40 snaps at linebacker, and then he took, he starts on at least 2 phases of our kicking game. So he was a guy, like, it was fun. I don't know where you guys are staying, but our hotel, we had all of our parents there, right? And the way the hotel was set up, I had to walk through the lobby every meeting we went to, which is good and bad, right? But I usually see Malachi's mom and dad. They're just mom's just got this infectious smile and personality, dad, and they were there with Jordan Anderson's mom and dad, and you know, I walked up to him. I believe it was Friday later night, going to my other night meeting at 8:00, and I kind of beeline towards them because that day we had a personnel meeting on Wednesday, and I couldn't believe those guys are in their junior years, right? Like those guys when we recruited them, and you know, both of them kind of coming into their element now. They both had some injuries to persevere through, but you know, two guys that were recruited out of Joliet Catholic there that was just really, really cool to see their development. And that was the most snaps that Malachi had taken, but he plays inside, outside. You saw him, we played him up on the line of scrimmage. He's just so, he doesn't say boo. He just lines up and does his work. An incredibly quiet, confident kid that is really fun to see him grow and do things. And then Jordan just really starting to come into his own. It's pretty awesome to watch it. We moved him around. Rob Disher was talking about how he literally moved Jordan into a position where he was listed as a 3 on kickoff coverage at like 3 different spots. So he's like kind of going through it with him, and Jordan just said, "I got it. I'm a 4," right? Like he knew the position, and just like, "Yep, good, we got it," right? Like it's just one of those moments you really feel excited about the guys.
All right, really good stuff from Coach breaking down that win. Something I wanted to talk about from that press conference, he always opens with an injury update. He mentioned Dylan Rosiak and Aiden Lawfrey still a little banged up from that Duke loss. To put it in his words, to paraphrase him rather, he said they could be back, but he doesn't want to give a false promise. And then another guy that we're looking at, Jaheim Clark, he's a little less likely to be back on the field Saturday against Western Michigan, but can't rule anything out. Let's talk about Western Michigan. It is a sellout at Memorial Stadium, at Geese Memorial Stadium. As I'm coming to you, that news was announced like 2 hours ago, so we're going to have plenty of coverage of the press conference, hearing from Josh Whitman about this really exciting donation to the university. That'll all be over on WCIA.com. But all this to say, oh my God, it says it. It says Geese Memorial Stadium on the game preview site, which is pretty cool. Another sellout. To have a sellout against Western Michigan. If again, I keep saying votes of confidence for this program, but if that doesn't say it, I don't know what does. Number 9 Illini taking on the Broncos. The Broncos are 0-2 after an overtime loss to UNT, and then they opened up with a road loss at Michigan State. So not a team that doesn't know what they're doing when it comes to going and playing in a Big Ten house. But you're looking at this Illinois team that's got 6-game winning streak, in the top 10 for the first time since Luke Altmaier was born and the camera phone was invented. Should be a really exciting game and one last test for this team to really shake out the kinks. Now, I don't think there are a ton of kinks. Don't get me wrong, there are, but you've got to be feeling really good heading into this one. This is your last non-con. And after this, you go on the road to an Indiana game that should be juiced up in a way that, in my opinion, is not intimidating, but is motivating. You're going to face, right now, number 22 Indiana in prime time under the lights. Then you come home for homecoming, go to Purdue, host Ohio State, get a week off, and then go back out to Washington. As I've said time and time again, this is a really favorable schedule for Illinois, and you've got to be feeling good heading into this one. So it's a 6 p.m. start. It's Family Day. That's, of course, FAMILL. For this team as they look to get win number 3. This is one, again, Glenn and I talk a lot about momentum. We spoke about momentum on our pregame show this past week with him down in Durham. This is one that I think you need for momentum to set the standard as you head into a conference slate where you're only facing 2 currently top 25, but it is still life in the Big Ten and life on the road in the Big Ten. So to get a win, to go into Indiana, USC, Purdue, Ohio State 3-0, and to give yourself a little bit of a, let's call it an insurance run, to give yourself a little bit of that, I think, is a really good spot for this team to be in. All right, as we look ahead to Saturday, we'll have all of our usual coverage. Again, it is a 6 p.m. start at Geese Memorial Stadium. Glenn and I will be live on our pregame show 90 minutes to kickoff, so that's at 4:30, and that'll be on our digital channels, so Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, the WCIA website. We'll be live in our newscasts, and then, of course, we'll have Brett Bielema after the game, recapping the game, and then more in our newscasts and more on the web. Today, we got to hear from a couple of Illini guys. As I'm recording this on Tuesday, we got to hear from Khalil Valentine and some other guys, so we'll have all of that up on our website. And then we'll get Brett Bielema one more time before the Illini take the field against the Broncos. So another big week ahead. And I mean, I keep going back to the fact that it's a sellout. That is just such a great place to be in, and I don't think you could ask for much more when you are this team. You got to just give all of the credit to Brett Bielema and to Josh Whitman and to the folks who have made 3 sellouts this season possible. All right, thanks so much for joining me on my first solo edition of the WCIA 3-in-1 Your Illini Nation podcast. Once again, we'll be back here all week long as Illinois looks to get one last non-conference game over Western Michigan.